to another edition of That Millwall podcast. Tonight, we start our wind-up review, however you want to call it, of last season. It's the first of a couple of shows that we're going to be doing. Before we get into all of that, can I say a big hello and welcome back? It's been a little while. Been very, very busy recently. To Dan. Dan, how are you?
Yeah, hello, mate. Hello, everyone. Hope everyone is well. As Stephen said, it has been a little while for me. I've just been very, very busy with work, and doesn't stop for me because I've actually got to work the bank holiday tomorrow. So no rest for the wicked and all that. But no, looking forward to it. And as Stephen said, we're doing some player ratings. I'm hopeful I can give a better account of myself tonight than some of our players have over the course of the season.
Absolutely, and in some cases, it's a lot easier for us. Or maybe we should have done rate the panelists. Maybe we should have done that. We'll have to.
Well, that can be a later show down the line.
Before we get into anything, I just think we should take a moment. There's 65 people watching at the moment. That's numbers 82. Rapidly going straight up to 82. Yeah.
Can we just say quickly before Stephen goes in? Thank you for your support. Considering, in terms of what there is to talk about Millwall at the moment, there really isn't much. So to have just under 100 of us with you, giving up your Sunday night on your bank holiday weekend, when Coldplay are playing on BBC Radio 1's big weekend as well, it's we're very grateful to you all. So thank you.
Love it that you've got in a little BBC plug there, Dan. Big fan of that. That's bonus points for your boss.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's now 84 of you. Obviously, there's us two. People will listen to this back. I just would like to have a moment just to discuss our friends from Yorkshire, who I say have a big beaming smile on my face.
Serious moment. Face.
Yeah. In the room. If for those of you that don't know, Leeds played Southampton in the playoff final today at Wembley. Leeds' track record in the playoffs has been very, very poor, and they probably went into the game as favourites. However, yet again, our friends from Yorkshire have bottled another playoff campaign and will be playing Championship football again. When I'm pretty sure they won the league about a month ago. Dan.
I think they did. Yeah. I thought didn't they win it when they played Leicester? Was that in March?
Yeah, I seem to think that they'd won the league, but no, our friends from, as I say, our friends from Yorkshire, and I use that term loosely, friends.
But I think Alex has raised a good point. At least I think that it was fair that they got to use them this time.
Absolutely. And I don't know where a lot of you guys are based, but if any of you are based in Southampton and do see Adam Armstrong, please buy him a pint from That Millwall podcast. Will now forever be a legend of the Championship.
Can we just say in our pre-season predictions, some of us had to predict, well, we all had to predict who we thought the Championship top goal scorer was going to be outside of Millwall just in general. Nobody picked Sammy Schmodix, unsurprisingly, because I don't think anyone predicted that, but a couple of us did pick Adam Armstrong, actually. So, good to see him. I think he's a great player at this level. And as he said, he's now going into the kind of the Millwall Hall of Fame. And he didn't even score against us this season. So I think that actually might put him slightly higher up than I maybe give him credit for.
Absolutely. And just before we move on from this topic, because we're not a Leeds show, as funny as it is, I'm just going to put up one comment here from Oliver. I live in Waterloo, had to put up with it all day. Well, Oliver, you've got the last laugh, my friend, because I bet all those faces walking back to the train after the game, they were very, very disappointed. Guys, we will be back just after this to actually crack on with the rest of the show and talk all things Millwall.
Language you don't usually hear on television. Millwall in London's Dockland.
No one likes us, but we don't care. We're that Millwall podcast. Loud every Friday night right here. Legends like Jimmy and Abdul take a share of the kitchen or two. Super Neil Harris, a fucking legend too. Through the good times and in this life, we'll support the Lions all our life. This ain't no place for fancy feet. This is fucking Millwall through and through. Located on our very own John Pedersen way. Let them all come, let them have their say. Millwall till we die. With that Millwall podcast.
So
Can I
back
just say
to
quickly, as someone who's I haven't actually seen that video. That's how busy I've been.
okay.
I haven't really watched the podcast. I like it, but there is a certain video missing, and I don't think it really needs me to tell you what video it's missing.
Is it the one of you?
Possibly, yes.
Is it Plymouth away?
It might be. It might be.
Well, we couldn't go a show with you without mentioning it with you being on there, Dan.
No,
you'll be
we've
pleased.
actually very briefly discussed it already before we came on air.
Absolutely. We will now next year though be travelling to Plymouth for Wayne Rooney's Plymouth Argyle, which will be very, very interesting.
And I will still be there.
Guys, obviously, as Dan said earlier, we appreciate you supporting us. Obviously, close season, it's quite difficult to have when there's not any football and really much content to talk about. So thank you for giving up your Sunday evening for us. We'll do our best. We will come back to any potential transfer rumours, any news and snippets and bits and pieces towards the end. As you can imagine, there's not a lot to talk about, but we'll go straight in. Dan and I think Mickey posted out a link for some player ratings. We're going to go through the squad. What I would ask you guys, we're going to go through the players. So we're going to start with the keepers, make our way through. When we name a player, if you want to get involved with, give us your ratings as well, put them along the side. We'll go through all of them and kind of see where we match up. But Dan and I have been racking our brains on giving our players some ratings.
And
Dan,
before we do go through the list, we have also given Gary Rowett, Joe Edwards and Neil Harris ratings as well, just to add a little bit of extra spice in there.
That's going to be interesting when we get to that. Actually,
I think it will be. So
yeah, we were talking off air what the lowest rating is. I think we may find a number that now we're doing managers. But as always, start with the men that usually in the sticks. I think we're going to avoid Connell Truman.
10 out of 10 player of the season robbed. That's all that needs to be said on Connell Truman, really, I think. So,
but Dan, you've got the list if you want to fire away with the first name.
First one's going to be the man who's been our number one for most of the season, Matty Sarkic. I've given him a 7. And I probably do think, while I've tried to base this across the whole season, I do think recency bias probably for quite a few of my predictions probably will be seen in some of the numbers. But I've given Sarkic a 7. I do think he was a lot better than what some of us gave him credit for throughout the season. And I think for what it's worth, I don't think he looked too bad under Edwards. The reason that maybe stopped me going a little bit higher was because one of the things I have based my ratings on is availability. And you expect your goalkeeper to be available pretty much week in, week out. And Sarkic did have a fairly prolonged period out of the team. So that's probably preventing him from going higher. But I do think 7's a fair rating. And I think he should hopefully kick on a little bit next year and a few years going forward after that.
Absolutely. Most of my reasoning, I'll be honest with you, I'd gone between a 7 and an 8. I think I've possibly gone higher maybe on some of them than maybe what you have, and again the listeners too. I settled on a 7. I think Matty Sarkic, I think, is a good goalkeeper. I'd said it on the pod a few times. I think there's a good goalkeeper in there, and he just needs a little bit of time to settle. He's young for a keeper too, or relatively young for a goalkeeper, so not in his prime just yet. But there were spells where there was a couple of mistakes which goalkeepers make, but sort of some real. I think Leicester away was one where it just the game changed on its head after
Cardiff. Also the Cardiff game around about that time as well. He had that was just when he came back into the team, wasn't it? He had a bit of a rough time, but I think then he got settled back down.
Absolutely. And I'll be honest with you, and you guys can clip this, you can bring it back to me next season if it goes absolutely awful, but I wouldn't be surprised if we're talking about Matty Sarkic up there in the Player of the Season award next year. I think he's really, I think there's a good goalkeeper in there.
I do agree with you. I just think as well, I think he will come on next season. Hopefully having a settled defence in front of him will help that, because it was a chopped and changed defence. And hopefully if he can get a fully fit season with no injuries and get all 46 games in, I do think that is someone that could very much be up there next season. The second player on our list is the man who's now left us, Bart Białkowski. Stephen, I'm gonna go to you on this one first.
I thought you might, and this is really tough because he didn't play that much football. That first game against Reading in the cup was, you just looked at it and just thought, oh Christ, this is.
I might have to drop my rating now.
you just think, oh God. I've gone with 6.
Okay.
I think he did well. A few clean sheets in the games that he played. Of course, club a legend. I won't. Maybe is that too much? Club legend, a cult hero, very popular with the fans.
Maybe if we're looking at, do we kind of go with the FIFA ratings of how they kind of put people in? So we have icon and hero. Maybe does he go into hero?
Yeah, perhaps hero. Yeah, a popular member of the team.
I think it's always hard to
as well.
put someone into that kind of legend bracket sometimes as soon as they leave. Like obviously there is certain circumstances like Neil Harris, but I think maybe it's sometimes when a player's left and been gone for a few years, and sometimes you think, wow, we was lucky to have him.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's. I think Bart will be one of those goalkeepers that people talk about and say he was one in a certain era, that he was one of the best that people have seen. Obviously, there'll be people that will go back to your Brian King, Brian Horn, people like that. But for a certain era, definitely. But again, he didn't play enough really to warrant anything higher for me than a 6. What about you, Dan?
I'm with Alex here on screen. I've given him a 6.5. I did forget about that Reading game a little bit, so I didn't nearly drop him to a 6. But I actually thought, credit where credit's due, for someone who didn't play much football in the 2022-2023 season, considering his age and his dodgy knees and so what. I think he was. I think he did well when he came in. He did actually keep Sarkic out the team for a little bit when Sarkic was fit under Edwards, and we all thought Sarkic would be in due to his playing out from the back capability. So I think that's kind of testament to him. And as Alex said, his attitude was superb when he was playing, a very popular member of the dressing room. So I can't give any more than a 6.5, which seems harsh, as Stephen just said. We're putting him into the icon category here, but or put hero wherever we want to put him, up there, maybe one of the modern day greats. I think that's probably the best way to phrase it right now. But I think that's probably where I'm at with him now. So yeah, I think a 6.5, and if we don't know whether he's going to be retiring at the end of the season, no comment yet. He obviously seems to be based out in Spain a little bit more now, so we'll just wait and see. But I'm sure many Millwall fans will kind of watch out for his next move of interest if he does keep playing, or if he goes into coaching. Who knows? Maybe he might come back to the Den one day. The next player on our list, we're going to go into the right backs now. And this player, he did play right wing a little bit, but we're going to put him into right backs for the sake of this. First one of our loanees, it's Brooke Norton-Cuffy. I'll go first on this one. I've given him a 7. I think it was a bit of a weird season for him. I think if you was probably rating his time under Joe Edwards, I'd probably give him maybe an 8 and 8.5 under Joe Edwards. I think he was okay under Rowett, and then I think Harris, he probably struggled the most under, but that was, we kind of know the mitigating circumstances around that. So that's kind of where I'm at, but I think he was a really good player for us, and I do think he'll go on to have a good career at Arsenal. I still think he's a bit raw, a bit young, probably needs a little bit more development, but I quite enjoyed watching him play when he played this season. So it's a 7 from me. Stephen?
So I made the shout that up until his injury, which was about January, I had him in bracket for player of the season.
He could have been in there, especially with that little run he had just before Christmas as well.
He was excellent. Done exactly what he was asked to do, play that kind of wing back role, and then push further forward. Got some assists, couple of goals. It was the goal against Sheffield Wednesday. If you actually watch it back, it's a really, really good. Like, wingers and forwards would be absolutely delighted with that type of finish and move. Harris, unfortunately, doesn't play with wing backs, and I don't think he trusted him enough to play as the winger role to get back and help out defenders, much as your Longmans and your Honeymans and players like that. Yeah. So I went with 7 as well. I think had he played the majority of the season, we don't know what the end result would have been, but I think it might have been a bit higher than that. I'm not sure about what his future holds. to be honest.
I think he'll be out on another loan spell next season. I can't see it being back with us just because of his limited game time under Harris. I don't think he'll go on to have a good career though. Maybe with Arsenal. Well, I hope for his sake it's with Arsenal because I do think he's a very good footballer.
I'll be honest. The level that Arsenal are at, I don't see that. I don't see him.
I do get what you mean.
Breaking in there, but I think another loan spell. Maybe he's one of those players that might need to leave Arsenal and find a permanent home somewhere rather than keep going out on loan. But a lone player that was committed to the cause. I remember there was at Ipswich away. I was one of the idiots that stayed till the end that actually saw a score right at the end. And in the 90th minute, Norton Cuffy chased from his own half to the midfielders, to the defenders, to the goalkeeper. We were 3-0 down, and he was the only player out there that actually looked like he cared.
I do remember, I wasn't there, but I remember watching that on the telly as well. So I don't think you could ever question that about him either.
No, committed all the way through. So wish him well. I say if he does come back, I wouldn't be against it, but I just don't see him. I just don't see him coming back to us again.
Yeah. Now, just to warn the viewers, before we came on air, there was 2 players we discussed our ratings for. One of them is Ryan Leonard, who we're going to do next. I've given him a 9. We've spoken about him enough, so I'm not going to sing his praises. The reason I haven't gone higher than a 9 is simply because he had a little bit of time out injured, which was unfortunate for him. But as I said with Sarkic, I've kind of based a lot of my ratings off a player's availability as well, because sometimes I think the best ability is availability. So that's probably the only reason why I haven't gone higher for Ryan Leonard. Stephen, the floor is now yours, mate.
I've gone all in on a 10. Of course I have. Ryan Leonard. The bloke, we've sung his praise so many times. We're not going to do too much on Ryan Leonard, but I'm really sorry, Chris. Yeah, I know it's brought it all back for me. Leonard, going back to Leonard, a happier time, should we say? Best player we've had this season by a long way. Outstanding in defence. His fitness issues, I agree, he did have a couple, but he's played a lot more games this season. He's looked after himself. A vital member of the team. Really important to have him signed longer term, I think. It might be a case of he gradually improved and had the season of his career, if you want. Maybe he might not hit the same levels, but but superb. His wall talk as well. If you listen to him, he had a bit of a rough time of injuries and stuff. So it was pleasing, very, very pleasing to see him have a good season.
What do you think? Carl's comment here.
If that's a rating of 4, then I'd love to know what some of our other players' rated are. if Ryland, but no. We've spoke about him enough. He's superb, deserved winner of Player of the Season, and for me, just levels above. Best right back in the division.
I would agree. One thing I will say is it feels like we're in the right ballpark with a lot of these ratings so far. A lot of them have been quite similar to us, which is quite nice. Next player on my list is Danny McNamara, someone who's played at right back, someone who's played at left back. We're going to go on to our left backs after this. I'm going to go first on this one, Stephen. And I'll let you take the floor for the next few first ones. I've given Danny McNamara a 6.5, which I think, to be honest, it would have been lower than that up until towards the end of the season, where, considering he's played at left back, he's put a few shifts in and he's looked quite solid there. Maybe 6.5 might be a little bit low. Maybe it's a little bit of recency bias. I don't know. It just feels about right to me to put him in at a 6.5. But towards the end of the season, he looks a little bit more like the old Danny Mac. Hopefully, we can see a bit more of that again next season.
I agree. I think recency bias does come into it. I think there was a spell just before, I think it was under Joe Edwards, maybe just before Harris come in, where I think he was struggling a little bit. Harris then brought him in. He made the mistake, didn't he, at Blackburn, and was kind of punished for that a little bit. But overall, my rating, I've actually got, this might surprise people because apparently I'm anti Danny Mac on this show. I actually gone overall for a 7, and the reason why I've gone for a 7 is because he's had to do both sides.
Yeah,
he's played both on the left and the right, and that's not easy to do. I stand by what I've said on this show multiple times. There have been spells where Danny McNamara has been poor, and there's been spells where he's been very, very good.
Yeah.
So I think maybe the recency bias has come into it a little bit, but I think a 7's fair, especially considering he's had to do both jobs.
Yeah, that's fair. So now we're going to look at our. Well, I've actually only got one natural left back down. I'm sure Stephen will correct me if I missed someone out. But the one natural left back we have down is Mr. Coffee himself, Joe Bryan. Stephen, what have you given him?
Again, I'm probably going to get some pelters in the chat for this, and we'll see how it goes with ratings. I've actually gone with a 5.
That's higher than mine already for context.
I've gone with a 5 because there's been glimpses. The goal he scored, I think, against Middlesbrough, the volley.
Yeah.
And the goal he scored, I think it was in a 2-2 draw. That might have been against Hull, possibly against Hull.
Yeah,
glimpses
I remember that
absolute genius from, and you could see why he was good going forward. However, the underlying fact of this season is that in the same game against Middlesbrough, he got injured taking a free kick and they went and scored up his end.
I was about to say, no, that was against Blackburn. Against Middlesbrough, he just headed it straight to their centre.
Oh, yes, you're right. Yeah, you're right. But no, too many games out injured. I don't think he's a bad player. I really don't think. I think he's a good footballer. We're just not going to see. We're not going to see enough of it, I'm afraid. So I've gone straight down the middle with a 5.
As I said, I've gone lower. I've gone for a 4, and kind of for the same reasons that you've said, Stephen. But Peter, what he said here, he's not been on the pitch much. 6. The reason he's not been on the pitch much, and given the hype around the signing of Joe Bryan at the time, like we thought we were getting one of the best left backs in the league. And to be honest, like when he has played, like as you said, the Middlesbrough game where he went and scored a worldie and then headed it to their centre forward, the Blackburn game, giving away a free, getting injured while giving away a free kick and they counter attack and score. The West Brom game where he gave away the penalty around the Easter period. It's just reasons why I can't put him any higher than a 4. When he's played, I agree we have seen them glimpses, but we've also seen absolute moments of stupidity from him. So 4 from me, no more.
What's really funny is in the comments as well, guys, who are bringing up the Costa barista coffee. It's just amazing, isn't it? It's just amazing, isn't it?
10. Brian 10 for his coffee making skills, 3 for the football.
I don't think there's much more to say about him. No. I don't know what his role is going to be at the club next season.
I've said I think left back might be on the club's list of targets as a position. I don't think it'll be the absolute top priority like a centre forward and a centre half will be. But I think if they've got budget left over, or if there's someone that becomes available on a loan or a free transfer, I think that's a position they may look at. Given, as we've said, we've got one natural left back there from what I'm listing here. Because correct me if I'm wrong, Stephen, the only other player I can really recall playing left back for us this season was Murray Wallace. Other than Ryan Longman, but for the sake of this, we're classing him as a winger. So we're going to do Murray Wallace, and we're going to segue into our centre halves after Murray Wallace.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think Longman, you've got to class him as a midfielder, don't you?
I've got him in the wing. Yeah. I've got him in the winger category, and we're going off my listings.
That's fine.
So Murray Wallace.
Again, I hate to do it to Murray because he's one of those that fits into the Bart mould, a long-standing player. He's won Player of the Season, he gives it all for the shirt. But I think injuries are now starting to really hamper his career. I think he's starting to get that. He's starting to get that sort of the feeling of all it takes now is for something. He's going to be out longer term.
Go on then. What have you given him?
I couldn't give him the same. I couldn't give him the same as a couple of other players. So I've gone 5.5.
Well, that's very, very generous.
I've gone 5.5. There's still been some moments under, in games that you did get a little bit of the old Murray Wallace. There was some moments, I think, under Rowett, there was a couple under Edwards as well, that he obviously scored at Sheffield Wednesday. But If you're compared between Brian and Murray Wallace edges it for me out of the two, which is why I give him the 0.5, because I just think that the commitment and the effort that you get from him. But I would say what I would say is I think it's his time at the club probably is up. For me, I don't see him playing much football anymore moving forward.
And I've gone for a 4 simply because pretty much whenever he played this season, we just looked. I think it was that Ipswich away game where we had him and Ryan Longman on the left-hand side, which was just sorry to anyone who was there with Stephen that night. I mean, I was watching on Sky, and let me tell you now, it was no better viewing. I was hoping the fog was going to get the game abandoned. It didn't. It just pretty much every single time we played, it felt like we was playing with 10.5 players because he was just so weak down the left-hand side, and the centre-half's cover was poor, and the winger cover in front of him was poor. So I feel like he's been hung out to dry a little bit, to be honest, at times.
Chris, we won't mention the game anymore.
We will try not to. Right, now we're going on to our natural centre-half. So the first player I'm going to give you is... I'm going to go with Wes Harding, actually, because I think there's a bit more to talk about. Well, I think there's quite a lot to talk about with most of our centre-halves, but I'm going to throw Wes Harding at you first.
This one might surprise you a little bit. He is...
That means you're going high.
Oh, no. He's one of my lowest rated.
Oh, really?
Players. Yes. And the reason being is because we were blinded massively by a couple of goals.
Yeah, he came in and he was our leading golden boot marksman, wasn't he?
Yeah, he scored against Blackburn at home, I believe. He scored against Watford away.
Great limbs. Sheffield Wednesday away.
Yeah, the limbs. He won me that bet, actually. I didn't score against Sheffield Wednesday, but the limbs at Watford was unreal when he scored in front of us. That was quality.
Yeah.
But we were blinded massively by those goals. We were talking about this.
Struggled to get a game for Rotherham.
Quick, pacey built centre half. He was the answer to all our problems. He was going to solve.
I'm going to sneak Plymouth away in a game that he did play like it was his first game that night for us, and he played like Prime Maldini at the back that night, and I was like, "Where's this bloke been all season?"
It was incredible, wasn't it? You're looking at it and thinking, Rowett signing, like, what are you doing? I actually put him down as a 4.
Okay.
I can't. The guy's a nice guy. His family have bought into massively the club. Like they've proper supported him, supported us. And I think he's a trier again, but he's just not very good. And 4 for me.
I've gone with a 5 for the goals, to be honest. And that performance against Plymouth away. There is going to be a theme about the Plymouth away, or at least with one player that me and Stephen have spoken about. Peter's taken a point away from him for his Ronaldo celebrations. You know what?
Absolutely.
As that say, I'm almost tempted to whip another half point away from him now. Listen, had a couple of good games, scored a couple of goals for us, and I think, to be honest, when Harris came in and very much had the brief of I'm picking the players that I trust to get the job done, there was a reason why Harding wasn't in the squad for a lot of it.
Absolutely, and I think that sums it up really, really nicely. I do agree that with the passing, that playing out from the back, but Harris was brought in to keep us safe, and he picked the players that he trusted to do that, as Dan said. So it says a lot when he wasn't even making the bench.
Okay, I'm gonna go first on the next one, which again, I think this one, I'm hoping it won't be too controversial because we're talking about 46 games, not the last 5 games of the season. So I've got next player on my list I've got in front of me is the man who captained us for most of this season, Jake Cooper.
I can't wait for this one. This is going to be gold, I think, in the comments as well.
Okay. Okay. Are you ready? I've given him a 6.5.
Okay. All right.
Because he was good towards the end of the season, but we can't forget 41 games of the season where he wasn't so good. That's just my reasoning. If this was after the Huddersfield game, that rating, because I was so angry with the bloke, I probably would have given him about a 2, I think, to be completely honest at that point. So, you know, and he chipped in with a couple of goals. I mean, the Cardiff game, obviously, was one that kind of kept us up. That was probably the game where we kind of looked at him and thought we were probably safe at this point. Obviously, got a goal that day. So probably gets a little bit generous. Maybe 6.5 is a bit generous over the course of the season. I don't know. Probably is that recency bias, like I said, will play into mine. But I'm giving him a 6.5 overall.
So I couldn't when I was doing this, when I had a look at these this morning and I was trying to put this together, all I kept thinking about was, I believe it was Ipswich at home, when all he needed to do was kick the ball out down on the left-hand side. So as you're looking down the pitch, down on the left-hand side, just kick the ball out.
Can we
of
promise
play.
not to mention Ipswich after this, by the way?
No, but it was at home, not the away game. It was the home game.
Actually, no, you know what? They beat Leeds to second place. We'll talk about Ipswich as much as we want tonight.
It just, I couldn't get that out of my head. Just absolutely losing it with him at the ground. It was just absolutely ridiculous. The recency bias. This is, again, got to try and stop thinking about what's happened over the last few games.
Yeah,
he's captained the side. He's been a captain in a team that's had 4 different people in charge of, if you include Adam Barrett, obviously Hutchinson's club captain, but he's been the majority of the time. So he's taken a lot of stick from me. I've gone for what I think to be a respectable 6.
Okay, that's fine. We are in the right ballpark then. I was concerned. A lot of the comments are kind of saying around the 6 mark as well. So maybe I have been a little bit.
Well, you can't forget though, and you've got all you got to do is look back at some of these shows that we've done and some of the performances that Cooper's put in.
It's just sorted,
it's not been good enough. But there's a comment there, I think about
pop it up
from one of the guys. It's gone past a little bit about the fact this one, when Harris come in and told him to do the simple things again, he was mostly okay, apart from the pen he gave away, which was obviously on the last day of the season. And I agree with that. If you ask him to do the simple things, tackle, get rid of it, head the ball, that's his job. He's also got a comfortable playing partner next to him, which I assume we will come on to.
He's not next on my list, but he's in the next few.
Okay. You've just got to, overall, I think there's been more worse than good, or more bad than good performances.
I think so. Okay. Next player I'll go for is the actual club captain, is Sean Hutchinson. Go on, Stephen. I'm going to let you go first in this one.
I love Hutchinson. I'm gutted that we didn't get an opportunity to do what they did for Bart.
Quite give him the send off, did we?
No. Really difficult again. Hasn't played that much football, but I'm not going to penalise him for that necessarily. In no coincidence that under Joe Edwards, when Hutchinson played that spell of games, we kept load of clean sheets. He scored that winner at Bristol City, which was unbelievable. He's not played enough, but again, I'm not going to hold that against him. Maybe I'm thinking with previous seasons and previous things in mind, but I gave him a 5.
I've actually given him a 6 because when he, as you said, weren't expecting too many minutes from him, and when he did play, he was Hutchinson. He was as reliable as ever, and maybe I'm even giving it. There's quite often points where I've given players an extra half for certain memorable things that they've done in the season, whether it be good or bad. He probably gets an extra half for the goal away at Bristol City on its own, I think, in my book.
It was a good goal. It was a good moment, and I think at that point, at that time, you thought maybe Joe Edwards that really was the turning period for Edwards, but unfortunately,
we all thought it was, didn't we?
Yeah. Unfortunately, not. But
and a lot of the rating. So as I said, so far, a lot of the ratings are kind of in our ballpark. Right, next one is a man we're hopefully going to be having the chance to talk about a lot next season as well. We'll probably touch on him again later in the show. But it is Japhet Tanganga, and I'm going to go first on this one. And I've given him an 8.5, and I did have him down as an 8. But as I just said with Hutchinson, certain players have got extra half points for memorable moments. And for me, that goal against Birmingham City was so important that I've given him an extra half for that.
So I said to you off the air, I'd gone a little bit higher, and I had a couple of nines.
Is he one of the nines?
Japhet Tanganga is one of my nines.
I think if he played all season, he would definitely be a strong second, if not first, for player of the season.
100%. If we'd have signed him in the summer, him and Leonard, that would have been a real battle for player of the season. I think he started. There was a little bit of a wobble. I know you can't really QPR. He come on for 5 minutes and he had not played any football at all, so you can't really blame him for that. There was a little bit of a wobble, I think, in one of the games. I think it was Hull away.
Yeah, it was his first start, wasn't it?
But yeah, and it didn't quite go.
The reason I can justify giving him that extra half mark is because he stayed fit, and I don't think anyone was expecting him to stay fit. So that feels enough to me to justify that extra half as well.
Absolutely, and that's it. You didn't know what you were going to get from him, but for me, superb, excellent signing from Aldridge, Edwards, whoever it was that got that deal over the line. We will come back to talk about him a bit later because obviously there's been no update since the club had the bid. I didn't expect there to be because apparently he's on holiday. So
yeah, as well. Bear in mind the transfer window doesn't open for about another 2-3 weeks.
No, but going back to the Cooper piece and what I was saying about having a confident playing partner, when Hutchinson was in his prime, shall we say, he made Jake Cooper look a better player, and Japhet Tanganga has done exactly the same thing and hasn't had the build up of chemistry, the longevity that Hutchinson and Cooper had together, and I think that shows you just how good of a player he really is, and that's why for me, as I say, he was one of my nines. There's one more, I think looking at my list, it's going to be no shock to anybody who it is when we get to it, but definitely an excellent signing, and one hopefully we can get back.
Yeah, I would agree. Right, we're going to move on to centre midfielders now, and this is the lowest player we've got, and I suspect a lot of this is going to be echoed in the comments. We know, I don't even need to say anymore, it's Alan Campbell. Now, I've probably been generous here, and when I say generous, I've given him a 2. And the reason
hold on, but I was going to say, explain to
the reason I didn't give him a 1. I've given him half a point because fair play to him, he still did community work when he was not even in the squad really, he was only on loan. And I've given him the other half a point because he was on the pitch. He played the full 90 at Plymouth away. What else can I say?
I gave him a 1.
A lot of people have given him a 1. There's 1.5s. Daily Mill's given him a 3 here. Like, if you think a 2's generous, then I'd love to know the reasoning. We got 1 here, half a point for each assist.
I'm just Connor Parsfield, one for the community work.
Yeah,
they literally, the only use they got out of him from January onwards, when they couldn't find Luton couldn't find another club, they rolled him out for World Book Day. Can you imagine how depressing that is, though, for a footballer not playing football? You get sent to go and do that. So that's why he got my 1 point. But
I think as well, Harris did say to it about him. I think he was asked about, and he was like, he's not a player I'm looking to use. But to be fair to him, he's turned up to training every day. He's not kicking up a fuss, and I think that's. I mean, while you expect that to be the bare minimum a professional footballer can do, it isn't something that actually happens quite naturally in the game these days. So I think, it didn't work out for him. I'm sure he's a nice bloke, and wherever his next move is, kind of good luck to him, I guess.
Do you think he plays in Luton's side in the Championship next season?
I don't know. Rob Edwards never really fancied him. Who was Luton's manager? It was Nathan Jones. Nathan Jones really liked him, but Rob Edwards didn't really like him that much. That's kind of why he fell out of favour. Didn't play that much towards the end of the season. Then when they got a couple more midfields in, they said, "You can go, mate." I'm
just wondering if he's going to rock up at the Den next season and belt one in the top corner.
I wonder if Nathan Jones might fancy him at Charlton again. It's not a horrible relocation for him, considering where he is in Luton and where he is here. It's not a horrible relocation. So
just on this one here, he should have gone back in Jan. The problem was, Ben, I
Nobody
think
wanted
Luton were looking for a club. They didn't want him to stay with us because he wasn't getting any game time, but no one wanted it. No one wanted to pay the wages. So
And
it
because as
just
well
meant,
at that point he hadn't played football for so long, he wasn't even fit when he came to us. He probably would have been even more unfit by that point.
and as you say, Millwall, from Luton's point of view, Luton weren't going to take him back because Millwall were paying half his wages.
Yeah.
Or quarter of it, whatever it is that I don't know how exactly. They're not gonna take him back and pay his full wage, are they?
No, exactly. So listen,
Hmm.
Alan Campbell, thanks for World Book Day, mate, and best of luck in your next adventure. Also, as well, the bloke was probably on the verge of getting in the Scotland squad for the Euros, and now he's got absolutely no. Well, he's nowhere near it. So
No.
in a way, I do feel a little bit bad for him, but that's just football, I guess, isn't it? So we're going to move on now onto a certain Belgian, a certain favourite of Joe Zampa.
Well, his dad's the favourite.
Yeah, exactly. So,
also, well, before we do this, before we go on, let me interject here. Joe Zampa, I don't know if he's listening tonight. I'm sure he'll listen back and he'll appreciate this.
He's probably watching Married at First Sight.
Yeah, I know. But Joe Zampa scored at the Den in the over 40s charity game. If you haven't seen it, he's got it on his social media. We'll get a link or something and get it sorted. But Joe Zampa scored a goal at the Den. So
so
well
what we're
done,
asking
Joe.
all of you to do is go and take the piss out of him and tell him all your nans could have scored it to bring him back down a level.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, don't praise him, but
yeah, that's
well done, Joe, to score at the Den. Unfortunately, I didn't get to. I haven't scored at the Den. I've played twice now, but
I'm hoping to get some minutes on the pitch next year. That's the best.
We'll try but we divert, whatever the word is.
Yeah.
We go back to Casper De Norre.
Yeah. Go on, Stephen. I'll let you go first on this one. I've gone first in the last few.
I've gone for what I think is fair. I've gone for a 7.
Okay.
And the reason why I think that's fair is because I think there's been moments of very good, moments of not so good, and an injury spell that hit him at the worst possible time. Because I think he was injured when Harris come into the club. So it was the worst possible timing for him because a new manager come in and he wasn't available for selection. I think there's a player in there. Maybe I've been a little bit blinded and maybe a little bit like others that have kind of there's a comment that's just absolutely thrown me.
Yeah, I'm going to save it for later.
A 7. I think it's respectable. Grady got his goal on the last day, and I think we're going to see a little bit more from him next season.
Yeah, I've gone quite similar to you for a lot of the same reasons. I've gone 7.5. It's just kind of for a lot of the same reasons that you have. And to be honest, I just think it's kind of reflection of ratings. That it's just a little bit different, maybe the way we just see it. That I might have been a little bit more generous. I don't really think there's anything more I can really say other than what you've said, Stephen, about kind of how you'd summarise Casper. I just hope he can kind of kick on next season.
Absolutely. And I think they will.
Yeah. A lot of these comments that are coming in the stream, by the way, I'm saving a lot of them for the end. We're going to come back round. We're hoping to kind of have the player ratings wrapped up in an hour and maybe have 10-15 minutes at the end talking other bits. So we're adding a couple of bits for the end. So thank you for the comments. Keep them coming with the ratings. Keep them coming for other stuff. We're going to come back to them at the end. Next player is Billy Mitchell. I'll go first on this one because, again, I think this could be an interesting one.
Mm-hmm.
And as I've said, you've got to think about the whole season, not just when Neil Harris came in. I know it's quite tough, recency bias. So he's got a 7 from me.
Slap bang the same.
Okay, that's quite good. Yeah, to be honest, I've always said I wouldn't mind seeing him and Casper play together a little bit. They didn't really get the chance to next season. I do quite like Billy. I think we know he kind of has his limitations. But when Harris came in, he looked so much more comfortable in the middle of the park. Much more like the Billy Mitchell when he kind of broke onto the scene under Rowett.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I think 7 feels completely fair to me when we go across the whole season. And I'm going to go with our last kind of centre mid now before we kind of move on to a little bit more of the attacking minded players. and I'm going to let Stephen go first on this one because I think it's going to be quite high because it's George Saville. And I think this is going to be slightly biased, if I'm being honest.
It is probably going to be slightly biased, but I don't think it's any coincidence that Sav was up in the top 3 for player of the season. I think he was second in the end.
Who else was in the top 3? I can't remember.
Honeyman. Honeyman was third.
No, Honeyman came second. I thought Honeyman was second.
No, I think Honeyman was third. Sav second.
Maybe I need to change my ratings then.
Leonard first. I think George Saville, I'm not naive enough to think that he's going to be the long-term future because his legs are going. There's no two ways about it. He is coming towards the end. But the fact that Gary Rowett was prepared to just sit him on the bench and let him rot, basically, it just... Again, I'm going to reference Plymouth away because I think he come on that night and after a couple of minutes had put one in the top corner.
Yeah, great finish, mate. He scored. He
not
got
as
2
good
contenders for goal of the season.
Yeah, not as good as the Sheffield Wednesday. The Sheffield Wednesday one was absolutely unreal. Probably arguably one of the moments, if not the best of the season. Just a superb player. He was robbed last year of player of the season. This year, for me, again, it's probably biased. Everyone knows that I'm the founder member of the George Saville fan club. So he is my other 9.
Wow, that's high. That is high. I'd like to think I've probably been a little bit more realistic and hopefully reflect the views of most of the other fans. And I mean, to be fair, there's kind of quite a lot around what I've given, more around what I've given him than what Stephen's given him. And I've given him the same as Casper. I've given him a 7.5. And maybe the reason I couldn't go any higher was because he had that spell out of the team at the start of the season. He's another one where I probably could easily have added half a point on for Plymouth away, to be honest. So, yeah, you know what? Listen, maybe I think maybe the reason I've also dropped him by half, he's only a 7.5, is probably because while he was still good this season, didn't quite live up to what he produced the previous season. That's maybe why. Maybe that's harsh from me because obviously he's a year older and his legs are slightly closer to going. It's a 7.5 from me on Saville. And now we're going to go to the slightly more attacking players. First one on my list, because again, it kind of segues. He played deeper, he's played a bit more attacking this season. It is George Honeyman.
So
this is an interesting one.
For me, I think Honeyman really has come on this season. I think he has been asked again to play a load of different positions, right mid, centre mid, holding, maybe a bit further forward. I do think, and so I've gone 7.5. We'll get that out of the way now. I've gone 7.5, which compared to, obviously, I had Leonard 10, Saville 9, and Honeyman, who was third, as a 7.5, which is a little bit of a drop off. And I've got Tanganga above him. And you kind of thinking, how have you worked that out with him being third in the player of the season? I think Honeyman is a real try. His work rate is excellent. I think he puts himself about. He's a proper Millwall player. I don't see the end product.
No,
for someone that plays in an attacking midfield or a wider role. The miss at Huddersfield, when he went with his shoulder in front of goal rather than his head to put us 1-0 up in the first half, I just think that when he played against us for Hull, he looked really good and dangerous in forward areas. And I don't think we see enough of that from him. So that's why I've gone with a 7.5. But someone who is definitely worthy of a place in this squad, especially under Neil Harris.
I'm toying with a 7 and a 7.5 for the lack of end product. As you said, there's a lot to like about him. And not for me, because I'm not a serial gambler, but I know for those who like a bet, he's probably been very profitable in terms of yellow cards this season for a lot of people. So I can imagine he's a fan favourite for that alone. So I will, because I'm feeling nice. It's the end of the season and it's bank holiday weekend. I'll give him the extra 0.5 today. And as we said, listen, I think played in so many positions, it is hard to criticise the bloke, but we do need more end product. That you could say that for a lot of players, I think, in this team.
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you, that's coming up, but that's a key feature in a lot of, I think,
I was about to
the
say,
next few
in
players.
these remaining 10 or so players. So the next player I've got on my list, well, I did have this player on my list. I'm gonna move the order around slightly. I'm gonna go with, you know what? I'm gonna go Ryan Longman next, and I'll go first on this one. I will go first. Now, as
Do
you
not
know,
go down the recency bias route.
yeah, as you know,
Whole season.
as the viewers will know, for about 40 games or however long he played for us, 35 games, I have not been the biggest Ryan Longman fan, and he has kind of made me shut my words up a little bit, to be honest, recently towards the end of the season. And I think that it's probably going to be someone the club look to try and sign in the summer. With that being said, and as Stephen said, you can't be too much with the recency bias. I've given him a 6.5. I was probably teetering a 6. But with the Leicester goal, I've probably put him up to a 6.5 based on that. Stephen?
That's really, really interesting because I've also gone with a 6.5.
Yeah,
I think if
hard. It's very easy to get carried away, and I don't want to be harsh on anyone because I love all our viewers and I love the comments, but I do think maybe Peter and London Lion here probably being a little bit more generous.
If you take the Ryan Longman under Neil Harris, I think you are pushing up a bit higher than the
You
6.5.
probably are getting closer to what Peter and London are saying.
Yeah, absolutely. But you can't forget that apart from the goal against Rotherham at home, there had been some poor performances in there. And I would say before.
Also, can I say as well, maybe another reason why I've given that extra half point is because I listed it in when I gave Brian Longman my public apology after the Leicester game. The poor bloke has played right back, right wing back, left wing back, right midfield, left midfield, centre attacking, mid striker. I think he even played centre mid at one point. He's practically played on every position we have out on pitch.
And that's it. I think if you look at Ryan, all I would say, and the guys with the ratings, again, it's great that you guys are doing it as well, because it kind of gives us a little bit more of we're maybe in the right place or the wrong place and something to discuss. But before Neil Harris took over, how many of you realistically would have said we need to sign Ryan Longman in the summer? There wouldn't have been very many of you up until that point because it just wasn't working out. Harris has come in and now everyone's saying we've got to sign him. I agree. Under Neil Harris as a proper winger, I think we do need to sign him, but you do have to go across the season that it's only seemingly, and as someone said, playing him in his right position, Peter, that really, really does make a difference. But recency bias, if we're going off the last 5 or 6 games, he's going to be right up there. But overall, I think 6.5 is fair.
Okay, good. Yeah, I think as Carl says here, Longman is a strange one. It was quite a hard one, and the recency bias probably made it actually a lot harder than it would have been. Because another one that if you'd have asked me in 40 games, he probably would also have been near the 2 mark, to be completely honest. I'm going to do the youngsters next. The first one I'm going to do is Adam Mayer, and I do feel harsh for including him in this because we've barely seen the boy play. So I have literally gone straight bang down the middle 5 and just say I hope to see him play a little bit more next season.
I'll be honest with you, I never actually gave him a rating because I couldn't bring. He come on twice, 3 times.
Yeah.
I just couldn't. We haven't seen him. I've just kind of.
I feel like he's going to fit in here though, because the first time he signed for us, like when he signed, he couldn't play. Not going to see a lot of people aren't rating him. I'm one of the only ones. Okay, maybe I shouldn't have. All I'm going to say is I think he will fit in here because when he signed for us in his first game, he couldn't play because he was suspended. So I do feel like he will fit in when he gets a run in the team.
Just remind me, what did you give Joe Bryan?
A 4.
So you gave Adam Mayer, who's played about 5 minutes of football more than.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Right. Fair enough. No, that's all right.
Yeah, I'm pissed off with Joe Bryan. Next player I'm going to go with. I might do these 2 in 1. I am going to do these 2 in 1. Idemo and Esse. Because I think it's a very strange one because I've given one of them higher than the other one.
I know what I have as well, because
Okay. Okay, go on. Say who you've given a higher rating to. I want to see if we're on the
SA.
same. No. Okay. This is where it gets interesting. So I'll go first. So I've given Idemo a 7 and SA a 6.5. Maybe a bit generous, maybe probably because they're young lads, they're Millwall. I want them to do well. Idemo kind of surprised me a little bit this season, to be completely honest with you. I wasn't really expecting much from him. And, he came on, he looked good at Middlesbrough, looked sharp when Edwards had him in the team, looked a real threat, real direct runner, pacey. And there's a reason why teams like Atletico Madrid were getting linked to sign him, and he put pen to paper on a new deal, which I think was fantastic. SA, having won the Young Player of the Year award last season and being linked with some of the big clubs, playing for England, I thought SA, I was kind of expecting a little bit more from him this season. That's probably why I've put him a little bit lower. And I know he's one club's Young Player of the Year, so maybe something happens in training that we don't know, or maybe because Idemo signed for Millwall from Shamrock, he's not eligible for the award. I don't know. That's why I've gone with Idemo slightly higher. Probably 7 and 6.5 is slightly high.
So I went 6.5 for SA and I've gone 5.5 for Amaku.
I think that's very harsh.
Reasons being, I don't think we've seen enough of SA really that we should have. I certainly, and something that I would be very interested to see what happens when we talk back at the back end of the show about potential transfers and if Zian Flemming's position and whatnot. I really still believe there's a player in SA, and I think that he has a chance to shine. There's been moments, I think, of real class. I think his goal, obviously, Amaku helped set that up. His goal at Middlesbrough and also against Coventry took it very, very well. Amaku, I
was just expecting more. I was just expecting more from SA based on what we had at the end of last season. That's why I've gone with Amaku slightly higher.
I agree with that, but he also wasn't getting picked. So, and again, as you say, we don't know what goes on in training. You don't know. With Amaku, I think there has been a couple of good games. I think was it the QPR game, I think, on Boxing Day, where he was very, very good. But all I could think about was when you shafted me, Ben, and Omar and sent us all the way to Blackburn. And you buggered off over to Italy to go to the San Siro or Rome or whatever it was.
Stadio Olimpico. Let's get the facts right.
And that night why am I putting a thumb up? I don't want a thumb up. I want this one. He was so bad that night. And then you never saw him again. And injuries, there's definitely a player in him. And I hope we see a little bit more of him. But I just think that the talk of Atletico Madrid for me was a little bit extreme. I don't know how true that was, but we'll see.
Okay.
But yeah, SA shaded it for me out of the two.
Okay. I'm vice versa with Amaku shading it for me, as I said. I don't know. It's a weird one. Do I want to be talking about this player again next season? Yes, because he's a good player, but are we talking about our last chance to get good money for him? We probably are here. Yes, it's Zian Flemming.
This one. The guys in the comments, the guys in the comments are like, this is the one I was really, really looking forward to because
this is going to
be divides opinions massively.
Can we get? Actually, I'll tell you what. I'm going to let the comment section go first on this one, Stephen. I want to see some comments. I want to see some comments on Flemming first. While they do that, let's talk a little bit about Zian Flemming while we get some comments for him.
I'm going to suggest, I think the Daily Millwall, because he commented as we were talking about it, so I think he's the first one under for Flemming.
We will put all these up shortly. But let's talk Zian Flemming.
Top goal scorer?
He's top goal scorer. From my perspective, I think he was unlucky under Edwards because Edwards didn't really want to play over number 10. But Flemming is kind of a player where you need to get him in the team. So he was trying to shoehorn him in out wide and wasn't working for him. And he was constantly getting hooked after 60, 70 minutes, which can obviously have a real kind of impact on the rating. For what it's worth, I think he's obviously his best position's number 10, and without him this season, we would have been relegated. Stephen, I'm going to let you give your rating. I'm going to start to put some comments up on the screen for him.
So I have given Zian Flemming a 7.
Okay.
This season. I think I gave him, and I got a barrage of abuse on social media after the Leicester Cup game saying, oh, he got a goal and assist, but that's what he's supposed to do. And he wasn't that good because I thought from box to box, he was terrible. But in that spell under Joe Edwards, where we went 7 games without a win and struggled to score goals, he was one of the only players that actually looked bothered and was trying to. He was putting himself about, giving it his all in a Millwall shirt. And I think that said a lot when people were talking about he was playing for a move and he was trying to do this. That a lot of that spell was in January. Don't forget, he was. So he could have got his move, and I don't think he's the move was ever going to happen then, and a lot of talk. I think under Harris again didn't really, similar to Edwards, but for a different reason, didn't really want to play over 10. I think he would have liked to have 2 out and out centre forwards on the pitch.
Well, he did try and push him up there as much as he could,
but he didn't. But he kept dropping deeper, didn't he? It was always that 1-on-1 rather than the 2 at times. I think Flemming is a very, very good player. I think, again, we'll come to what his future might hold, but certainly one that, as you said, we needed to get him in the team. His effort and his commitment, I think, can't really be questioned. He didn't hit the heights of last season, but certainly for me, I don't think he was one of the worst performers. So I've gone a
smidgen higher at 7.5 for a lot of the reasons you said, and ultimately the reason I think I have gone probably higher is because I do maintain, and I think it's quite obvious. I'd like to think it's quite obvious to a lot of people that without him, we would have been relegated this season. I truly maintain that. You can look at some of the games where he's contributed. So you can look at the Watford home game straight away. Got the winning goal. There's 3 points. Southampton got the winning goal. That's 4 points gone already. And then
you'd argue Plymouth.
Well, we've got goal and assist. So I didn't want to go Plymouth first. Okay, I was going to say Plymouth. I didn't want to say it first. Okay. So that's kind of where I'm at with Flemming, and we will discuss his future because I'm sure it's been something that's discussed. I haven't had my say yet, so that will be something we discuss. We've only got 4 players left to run through and our managers as well. So the next player I think is a player that probably splits opinion probably equally as much as Zian Flemming. It's Duncan Watmore, and I've given him a 6 because he's probably the most frustrating player we've got. In many ways, I'm half expecting him to be out injured one time because he's walked into a lamppost in training because he has his head down so much.
I think a 6 is. I had 6.5 jotted down, but again, Duncan Watmore, much like Ryan Longman in very, very similar ways, that in one game will look absolutely a world beater, look incredible, and then the next just absolutely like he doesn't know what he's doing and never known.
To be honest, I'd say it's probably more 1 in 10 he actually play. 1 in 10 he plays like the Ginger Messi, like that video. I don't know if you've all seen that the video from FC Bish, my good mate. Good evening to you, mate. That rocking all over the world video. He's got Watmore's face photoshopped onto Messi, and we probably see that probably one in 10. Extra half a point here, free suntan.
I do like him, and I think again he does give you something when he's on his game. He does give you something because he does drive you up the pitch. It's just he seems to miss an awful lot of chances, and then all of a sudden, like he's just constantly head down. But
that's what I mean. He's gonna get injured by walking into the post or something at some point.
Who can forget against Cardiff when he whipped his shirt off?
Yeah.
And nearly, I mean, he's paler than me, and that's saying that really is saying no, that really, might want to go to the doctors and have that sort of checked out a little bit. But he's a 6.5. I don't think we can really go much higher than that. He can't play
No.
90 minutes either, which
Yeah, I
is
was about
for
to
me
say
a little bit of a
that's a
problem.
big problem when you're a footballer, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Probably also gave us one of the comedy moments of the season when he walked over to Middlesbrough's bench.
Oh yeah, that was good, wasn't it? That was
might-
good.
that
That
made
made the championship.
That made the
I think was it
champion, yeah.
moments of the season. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah. Right. Tom Bradshaw. Benjamin
Get
Green.
Ben on the
good
phone.
Evening. Ben, good evening. I love you so much, mate. I cannot wait to see you next season. I'm so happy to see you next season. 5.5.
Can we get this clipped, please? Can you explain why a 5.5 first, and then we'll clip it?
Not many goals, which is your main job as a striker, and I think I think that was a lot of our concerns, that it was going to be very, very low this season in comparison to last season as it is. You can't fault the bloke's work rate. That's one thing you can't fault about him. But again, injuries, availability is sometimes the best availability. So,
he's a
5.5, and I can't really go any higher. I'm sorry.
I've organised. I'm going up to a game of cricket 2020 up in Manchester with Ben in the near future, and I'm gonna try and get him to calm down after your 5.5 rating, because his head's going to explode when he listens to this fact.
I'm going to get a message tomorrow morning, aren't I? Come on.
I've gone with a 6 for.
I mean, that's not even that much higher. Come on.
No, I know, but you've gone lower than me, so
here we go.
I've gone with a 6.
I mean, come on, this says it all. Come on now.
For the benefit of those on a podcast, Alex S. Joe Zampa is only 3 goals behind him this season. That is true. That is true. If you no, I won't do that to Joe. I won't. But
I love this song.
Brad
I might have to steal this as one of my new catchphrases. You couldn't hit water if you fell out of a boat.
He's asked to do an impossible job like the other strikers. I know. And I just think
I'm actually thinking about boosting him extra half a point.
No.
I won't.
You stay down.
I won't. But he could have an extra half for the limbs for Leicester away.
Yeah, that's true. That was it was unreal.
There is an argument for that. I won't. Stephen said I won't. It's just because he doesn't want Ben to be equally as pissed off at him.
Exactly. I'm supposed to be staying at his house, so
okay. Well,
hold on a minute. We have Chungy.
I've got someone.
Mill are cringe and an absolute joke. So Chungy,
here we go.
Can you just tell us who you support, please, my friend? If you're gonna come at us, are you possibly a Leeds United supporter?
They might have seen Jimmy on the. When we say Jimmy, by the way, Jimmy Abdu, not Jimmy Savile on the thumbnail. for those who have not seen the thumbnail.
But anyway,
while we wait for him to come back. Yeah, Ben, if this is going to make you feel any better, we're doing Kevin Nisbet next. Now, I'm gonna wrap everyone who takes part in our podcast out here, because we'll have to do our little pre-season prediction, as I mentioned earlier, where I correctly picked Adam Armstrong to be one of the top goal scorers in the league. We also had to pick everyone.
Hold on, whoa! Hold on.
What are we getting?
I support Real Madrid.
What are we getting? What is going on here?
Okay.
I feel like Aston Villa.
Thank you very much, Chungy, for the view and the comments. We appreciate all of our viewers, but if you support Real Madrid, mate, what are you listening to a Millwall podcast for? What are you doing? Anyway, back to Kevin Nisbet.
Yeah. So as I was saying, we all had to pick who we thought our top Millwall goal scorer was going to be for the season. We all picked Kevin Nisbet, and he did finish second. Let's say that he did finish second.
Yep.
But he was still incredibly underwhelming. So Stephen, I've actually matched him with Joe Bryan. I've given him a 4.
Okay.
And I'm gonna very carefully go through some of these comments because we can't get in trouble. So I'm just gonna go very carefully through these comments. Sorry, everyone.
If we're gonna go down the route of it's his first season in English football, I can have a slight bit of sympathy for him. If there's an attitude problem, which they're apparently, well, basing it on what Harris said, that there was a disciplinary issue. We don't know what that is, but I'll be honest, I give him a 5.
I think that's generous.
I gave him a 5. I think his goals some of his goals he took were very, very good finishes, to be fair.
But I also want to say, have you some of the goals I've listed, at least we have happy memories from them. Stoke at home, is that really the happiest memory we're going to take away from us with a Kevin Nisbet goal? Stoke at home.
And he also scored a really good goal against Sunderland, though, in the 1-1.
We didn't win the game.
No, I know, but
that's how I base it. We didn't win the game.
I think
Talking of not winning the game, by the way, Ryan Leonard, there you go, mate. You can knock him down 0.5 for that. He gave away the penalty that day.
That's so harsh.
I'm not doing it. Don't worry. I'm saying you could if you're giving him a 10 and you need a reason to knock him down and not give anyone a 10.
No, Leonard. I won't do that to him.
Okay, that's fine. The last player that we have on our list is another one of our loanees, Michael Obafemi. Go on, Steve.
6.5.
I've gone 7.5. I've gone 7.5. I think that's. Listen, I think he came in under Joe Edwards and was thinking that he was going to play in a team where he would probably get the ball in the box, bit of clever movement, and he was probably going to score a lot of goals. Within 3 weeks of signing and him not really kicking a ball, his plans completely changed. And that something's clearly happened behind the scenes, but whenever he stepped on the pitch, he always looked like he gave it his all. And that's ultimately all I can ask for when someone puts the shirt on and, scored a couple of goals for us. Would have been nice if he'd have got a couple more, but overall, I thought he looked a threat.
Yeah, hard to argue with that.
Maybe 7.5 is a little bit generous, but
there's a couple of sitters that a couple of chances he missed where he probably should have done a little bit better. Disappointing as well. I know Harris had kind of said about playing players that were going to be here next season, but again, to hear that there was that little bit of a potential issue of the disciplinary at the end of the season is quite disappointing, considering he seemed to have bought in really, really well to the club. But
yeah,
a lone player that, again, some of them come along, Alan Campbell, who you just think, God, why did we bother? I don't think Obafemi would fit into that category, as you say. I think he'd give it all, and he bought into what Neil Harris asked him to do, which is something he would never have done in his career before. So that kind of lone striker role. So again, he'll end up somewhere and have a reasonable career, probably score a few goals in the Championship. But
I agree. I agree with
really.
the points raised. Be interested to see where he does end up next season, whether Burnley will give him another chance or not. I'm not sure they will.
No, I don't think so.
That'll be interesting. Now that's all the players we've got down. I don't think we've missed anyone because I did double check this earlier, and we all seem to have the correct numbers in the group chat. So. But one thing I did propose was rating our managers. We haven't rated Adam Barrett. To be honest, I feel like considering I rated Adam Mayer, I probably should be rating Adam Barrett as well because they probably play or featured in equal amount of games.
He got 2 points from 4 games.
I thought it was 5 games.
No, it was Watford, Preston, Southampton, and Blackburn.
I thought he did one more game. Okay, there you go. Never mind. Well, okay then. So we have got ratings for Gary Rowett, Joe Edwards, and Neil Harris in front of us. Let's rewind to the start of the season. Let's start with Gary Rowett. I've gone for a 5.
I think that's very generous. In all
Okay.
honesty,
Go on,
I've
what have
gone
you?
with.
I've
I've gone. Spare of the moment. I've jotted these down. I've gone with a 4
I'd
for
probably given
Gary
him an extra
Rowley.
half for Plymouth. I think that's
Right.
kind of goes without saying, to be completely honest. Um,
The reason being for me was there's the three things that done it for me.
Go on.
First of all, at the start of the season, he went back to a system that didn't work the previous year and only brought in really Wes Harding as another defender. Oh, and Norton Cuffy, to be fair, on the right hand side, right? So the 5-back didn't work yet. He went back to it. Why? You didn't sign a whole
Yeah.
new back five. It just that was just ridiculous. Norwich away, the incident with him clapping the supporters,
Yeah.
for me, just not good enough. And ultimately, I think Rowett, whilst this will be the last we possibly mention him on this show, I hope, and Edwards as well, because obviously the season's coming to an end and they're now done. I think he left at the right time because it was going stale. However, I do think that it'd be interesting to really understand, was it a walk in? Was it a sack in? What was it? Was he waiting for a payout? And I wouldn't be surprised if he was waiting for a payout because he knew that his time was up. He
Yeah.
knew that he wasn't going to last too much longer. Wish the guy, all the best for, the couple of seasons he had us challenging for the playoffs. Last year we threw it away, but
Yeah.
too stale.
Okay, so my 5, extra half for Plymouth away, extra half for the fact he's got Birmingham relegated. Absolutely delighted to see them go down. And I think there's some irony in there as well, because we'll come on to it in a minute, and I'm sure someone said it, but Joe Edwards scored the winning goal for Plymouth on their final day of the season. Yeah, that's what got Gary Rowett relegated. So I think there's some irony in there somewhere, which is fantastic. So that's why I've given him the extra half a point. I do completely understand Alex's comments there about minus half a point for the stupid glasses he wears on Sky. And also to add in another negative that I don't think you mentioned, Stephen, was Leeds at home, where we just to roll over and have our tummies tickled in a game like that. That's not good enough. No, not good enough. But maybe I think probably 5 is a little bit generous, but I feel like a lot of the comments are kind of in our ballpark. Now this one, I'm not expecting nothing too high. I have actually seen a 7 for him in the comments.
So have I.
Yeah, Joseph. Very interesting, mate. I'll go first. I'll go first, and you can go first for Harris. For Joe Edwards, I've given him a 2.5. I'll probably almost break down why I've given him a 2.5. 1 for Sheffield Wednesday, 1 for the 3-game run over Christmas, and for half a point, he clearly had some factor in Tanganga and Obafemi signing for us. That's probably it.
There was a great comment about after the first game of 10.
Yeah.
And the remaining games like -2 or whatever it was.
Yeah. I'll try and find that one now. I don't know whether it got put. There we go. After 14 games, 2. There we go.
Joe Edwards gave me one of the best away days I think I'll ever have as a Millwall fan, because we all had hope. We all had belief that we'd signed, the Messiah was in charge, and we were gonna walk the league, and it was going to be fantastic. Joe Edwards was a man out of his depth, ultimately, and someone that probably wanted to play some nice football, didn't have the tools to do it, and was too stubborn to find a way of playing really with the players that he had. I think 2.5 even is generous. I'd put that. I'd bet 2.
A 2.
It was just a bad. It will go down as just a horrendous decision made by the football club that, thank God, it didn't really seriously cost us in the end.
And he's probably lucky we once employed Nigel Spackman. Let's say that for the sake of his own managerial CV, he's lucky Nigel Spackman was employed by this football club once upon a time.
Absolutely.
And I feel like it's fitting that we do end with our favourite, Super Nil. Come on, Stephen. You can go first, mate.
I'm going to give Super Neil a 9 out of 10. The reason I can't give him a 10 is for Huddersfield and Rotherham back-to-back away defeats to teams that were at the bottom of the league and got relegated.
Yep, that's well. I've gone for an 8.5. That's the reason I haven't got him up, and probably the other half of the reason was that when safety was secured, you did want to see SA and Amaku and players like that get a little bit more game time, and we just didn't see it. I'm hoping they do next season, but based on Harris saying once we were safe, we wanted to look at players for next season. He didn't get to look at them. I don't know where his kind of thoughts are with them. I'm hoping they do get a chance. That's probably the reason why I've knocked him down another 5. But in terms of what Steve said here, he did exactly what was required. We all thought we was dead, buried, doom and gloom. And I remember actually, I looked back in our podcast group chat the other day when I put the message in and was like, he is actually coming back, lads. Like, we'd all seen it on Twitter. Within about an hour, we'd all gone from laughing, and I was literally like, "No, lads, this is happening. it's actually happening." And we was all like, "What is going on?" I remember messaging my cousin as well, and he was like, "I'm completely unconvinced by this." He proved us all wrong yet again.
I think I said it earlier about Edwards about giving me one of the best away days ever. Neil Harris did the same thing at Southampton.
All three managers did it for me. Okay, so they all probably get extra points for that.
That day at Southampton was incredible, wasn't it? It was absolutely
superb.
And
I actually think Russell Martin learnt a little bit from that today, based on the way they played for like the first 15, 20 minutes of the second half today.
It just Harris, he was always going to divide opinions. He probably still always will divide opinions going into next season, because what's going to happen, I'll tell you what, this might be a good sort of way to transition into the transfers, because I know Harris isn't necessarily going to be, he's going to work closely with Gallen and how that's kind of going to work moving forward. But we're going to be judged on the type of players we bring in. If he brings in a 6'5" striker, you know exactly what the game plan is, next season. So he'll always divide opinions, but we spoke about it right at the start when we were talking about Bart. Neil Harris will forever ever be a club legend. He has done virtually everything with his football club. He's played in Europe. He's got us to a cup final. He's been top goal scorer. He's the record goal scorer.
Build the statue.
Promotion as a player, promotion as a manager, kept us up this time. All it really takes is if he was to ever get us into the Premier League, it would be incredible. I don't know if that's ever going to happen. I don't know, but he is absolutely, a legend through and through. And as that comment said, I think from Steve, he's done exactly what he needed. And what more can you say?
Yep. Right. So we're going to now speak on transfers, and I'm going to come back to a few comments that I've highlighted here, and a couple of them are actually about transfers. So we're going to kick off with this one, which is from Connor about Tanganga. I can't say I'm surprised at this one. This does feel like a little bit of an Ipswich signing. They're just quite savvy operators in the transfer window. That if they do get him, they'd be getting someone with Premier League experience who's just had a very successful 6-month loan spell, and someone who can play right back and centre back, which in their system they quite like the right back to be a little bit more defensive, because Leif Davis is their left back and he proper bombs on, so it gives them a little bit of balance. So this is one that I do think makes sense, and obviously we know they can pay more money, so there is obviously going to be concern about it.
Absolutely, and again, he's come from Tottenham. Like, Tottenham are part of the Big Six. He's clearly had an impact. You're gonna have big interest. The only positives for us are that we're London based, so it's not a huge relocation thing. He's clearly liked by the players and the supporters, and he knows what he's getting into by signing for us. They're the positives, but clubs are going to pay. They are going to pay more money for us. That's always what we're up against. So that. We'll see what happens. If he goes to Ipswich, you couldn't blame him, but let's just hope that there's something in the fact that he's obviously enjoyed his time with us.
Yeah. Another transfer rumour here. This was from Mill Holdings. Heard a rumour today that Bromley are interested in Murray Wallace. Now, I do think Murray Wallace is a player that probably does need to leave the club. I don't know how much he's on. I can't assume he's on a huge amount of money, but if his wages could go towards Tanganga's wages, for example, I'm all for it. And I do think Murray Wallace, if he wants to play regular football, he does need to drop out of the Championship. Whether Bromley is the move for him, I'm not sure, because I think wages will be a stumbling block for Bromley more than anything. But I do think
what could happen there though is if Mill were to pay him off. If Mill were to pay up and release him, then he might be willing to take the pay cut.
Yeah, that might be it. Obviously, as we know, we've sent a few players on loan to Bromley. The location isn't massive, so that might be something that sways him. This one just on Alan Campbell. Didn't we try and sign him when he was at Motherwell? We did try and sign him when he was at Motherwell. I think it was Gary Rowett who tried to sign him. If I'm not wrong, I could be, but I think Gary Rowett, his contract was coming to an end, and we put an offer in, and he chose to go to Luton. So that's just what happens, and now we've had our term of him, and we don't want him anyway. So yeah, there's that one done. Loan SA out. These next two are kind of related to Flemming. Loan SA out. Now we can fit Flemming into this conversation because there is an argument that SA could be out for loan. There's also an argument that he could go into Flemming's position if Flemming goes and we continue to play with a number 10.
I think personally that if Flemming goes, then I think you have to say to Remain SA, this is your time. Personally, this is your time. If of course, if we play with two strikers, it's a bit different. You don't know what Harris is going to do. If we are going to try and play with a 10 and be a little bit more creative in that fashion, then I think this is the time to say to SA, this is it. He's under contract, so he's not going to go anywhere. And I think he's on a reasonably long-term deal. No one's mentioned what it is, but he's on a longer term deal. SA, give him the chance to play in that number 10 and have a look at him. You look at again, we talk about Leeds. Archie Gray, he's 17, 18 years old, whatever he is, and he's had a really, really good season. There's other players in the Football League. Jude Bellingham was doing it in the Championship at a young age, and then obviously got his move. If you don't play these players in the right position, you'll never ever know. If Flemming is going to be sold, which personally I think he will, I don't see any way that we keep him this summer. Give SA a chance in the 10.
I do agree with you, and that kind of comes on to this point. Sell him. We don't want another Jed Wallace.
And that's
I do think we do, but I do think we have to get a good value for him. And to me, good value would probably be 7 to 8 million pounds in that area. A lot of people will say, he didn't have a good season last season, but he did have the season before. People just don't forget about that. I think if you add into the fact he's 6'2", he's quite a unique profile. You don't get many kind of 6'2" centre attacking midfielders. So I think they're kind of factors that play into our hands a little bit, and the fact he has 2 years left. But I do agree. I do think we need to be looking to sell him. Stephen, how much would you be looking for Zian Flemming?
I would say around the 7 million mark.
I think that's fair.
People say about 5 million, which look, we've bought out the Fortuna Sittard buyout clause. We're led to believe around 1.5 million pounds. So if you add the two together, we don't know what the buyout thing is, but if you, roughly speaking, I reckon we would have paid around about 2.25 million, roughly.
Yeah, maybe a bit more, maybe 2.5.
Yeah, possibly between 2.25 to 2.5 million pounds. If you get 5 million pounds for him, you obviously double your money. That's great. But in terms of statistic and numbers, he's got, I think it's 32 or 33 goal contributions in 2 seasons, in his first 2 seasons in English football. You cannot let a player go who's got that much influence in a team that isn't blessed with goals It's
No.
not like at Ipswich where loads of them have got like 15, 16 goals in this campaign. I would say anywhere around the 7 million mark for me, I'd be relatively happy. Maybe we would have got more last summer, but that's kind of where I'm at with it.
Yeah, I do agree. I think we would have got more last summer, and I don't know the levels of bids that came in last season for him. They probably do regret not taking that money now, I imagine. But I think it came in at a bit of an awkward time for the club where obviously John had just passed away.
Yeah.
So it was probably a bit of an awkward time. But there is no reason why we shouldn't be getting £7 to £8 million for him. And the majority of that needs to be up front. I saw something about Leeds earlier, and I think they owe about £190 million in transfer fees in because they've bought so many players in instalments, and I think they owe about 70 million this summer. So they're probably going to be looking at some sales. They would have been anyway, but they'll definitely have to be looking at some sales now. But we can't afford to be, say as if we get 8 million for him, but we only get 3.5 million up front. We get 2 million next season. We get another million the following season, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work. We need, if they want to give us 7 million up front, and then they want to say, and there's 3 million add-ons if he plays 50 games, if he scores 20 goals, if he gets 20 assists, you get extra money. Then yeah, that's fantastic to do that.
Yeah, of course. But we're not a club that can do this. I know we want to pay like a packet of crisps for players and this, that, and the other, but to progress, you need to be recouping the money. And if someone really wants him, you say to him, pay it. Then none of this installments, pay the money. So and go from there.
Yeah. Right, a couple more comments here. So this one is about the charity match that Stephen played in.
Stephen. Unfortunately, well, that is true. However, I was used as a right winger. Now, for those of you that know me or don't know me or whatever, I have never been blessed with pace. I was asked high and wide, and that's the job that I did. I did okay, but we went in at half time and we thought we'd won the game. And second half, we absolutely fell apart to the point where I don't know what was worst, our second half performance or Millwall's second half performance beat Blackburn a couple of seasons ago. However, what I would say, we lost the game 5-4. It was a really good game. If you haven't seen it, the winner from, I think, Harry Montgomery, the guy's name, if you haven't seen it, it is a wonder goal with his left foot at the Coldblow Lane. Honestly, I would be living off that for the rest of my life if I was him. If you haven't seen it, go and check it out on Twitter. I know Phil Clark does listen to the show. He does an amazing job organising both of the games. The under 40s and over 40s. There's a lot of effort that goes into it. It's a lot of dealing to and fro with the club. He had a lot of dealings with Steve Kavanagh and Billy Taylor, who helped make the fan games happen. So Phil, thank you very much for sorting it out. Got to play under the floodlights as well, which was amazing experience. So I will be going back hopefully next year. I've played there twice. I won one, lost one. So I've got to try and get one more game in me and see how it goes. And again, going back onto Joe Zampa, his team won on the day. I think they won on penalties. It was 1-1 overall, and obviously, as we said earlier, Joe scored. I thought Joe would be more likely to score in the over 40s disco. Well, he did. For those of you that haven't seen it as well, Joe did give it the Zian Flemming celebration when he scored. He put the guns up, trying to show off a few moves. Well, I'm trying, Joe, but they keep dragging me back down, mate. But no, honestly, the charity games were amazing. A few people were there. A couple of people said that one of the guys on the other team in my game said he watches the podcast. Had a couple of people come up to me talking about it. So thank you very much. But great experience. Really, really amazing to play at the Den under floodlights. But yeah, we blew it, basically. We did a Blackburn.
Looking ahead to next season now. This came in very early from Luke. Don't know about you lads, but I can't pick an outright winner for the Championship next season. Now, it is very, very early to even start making predictions, considering we only got the full list of teams confirmed today. But one thing I will say is that I do think the division is looking a lot more open next season. The three teams that are coming down, I don't think Sheffield United are going to be all that next season. I I think Burnley might do all right, although it'll be interesting to see who goes in there as the manager now. We all know companies go in. I think Luton will probably do all right. But it's quite hard
See,
to
I
pick the
don't think
rest.
so. I don't
Okay.
think Luton will. I don't think Luton will. I see them being a stable club now. They've got their money, they've got their finances to get their the stadium sorted. I just don't see them being like the Leicester or the Leeds or the Southampton
No, I don't think
from
there's
this
really going to be a
season.
runaway. I don't think there's
No,
really going to be a runaway.
Burnley could, dependent on who they get, because I
Who
do
they
think
get,
that they
yeah.
have some very good players.
Yeah. I am actually. So, interestingly, now Ipswich have done it. 5 teams in history have been promoted back to back from League One to the Premier League. So going League One to the Championship, then the following season going Championship to the Premier League. And the previous 4 times it was done in back-to-back seasons. Now, I'm not saying that everyone should go and put their money on Portsmouth to get promoted this season, but I do think they could be a potential dark horse for next season. I did watch them. They play some really good football. They seem to be quite savvy operators. And in terms of the teams coming up from League One, they're definitely the best placed. I don't think I personally don't rate Derby's squad much at all. I think it's a kind of a who's who of former Championship teams, and I think they'll do quite well to stay up. And I don't really rate Oxford's squad that highly either. Again,
No.
it kind of seems like quite a few failed Championship players. I'm not saying that they're definitely going to be relegation certainties, but I'm thinking out of the teams that came up, Portsmouth should be well equipped to do well, particularly in their first season at this level.
Yeah, I actually think the season or the Championship is going to be much like it was 2 seasons ago. I think it's going to be quite an open, bunched sort of lots of teams fighting for that
Yeah,
top 6 and relegation and whatnot. There's a comment from Steve there. A lot
go
of
on, pop it
the
on.
so-called big teams are losing parachute payments next year. Norwich are in a bit of trouble because Norwich took out a loan against potential TV rights in the Premier League, expecting that they would be able to repay the money when they got promoted. They now haven't done it for 2 seasons. That money is now starting to be owed basically back to they've got to pay that loan back. Stuart Webber, who I think has now left Norwich, has put them in a little bit of trouble. They've got the differences with
Norwich.
Dan Riggs has put there with West Brom and Norwich. I don't think West Brom have many sellable assets.
I don't think
in
West Brom
terms
are
of-
actually in that much trouble now as well, because
No.
West Brom, they did get a takeover sorted.
But again though, they don't have. I don't think they can generate through sales as such.
No.
Whereas Norwich have got, I would say, 3 or 4 players that are
Yeah.
capable of bringing in decent money.
Yeah, I would say Johnny Rowe, Josh Sargent,
Sarah,
definitely, possibly
and
Nunez as well.
Angus Gunn as well, an international keeper.
Possibly, yeah.
So I do think that they'll be able to sort out the finances. Leeds again, if they've got to raise all of this money,
I can see a lot of vultures swooping in, particularly for that attacking lineup.
Oh God, yeah, Nonto, Somerville, and Rutter, or whatever his name is. Dan James. They're all people are gonna come in. They're gonna come in, but you reap what you sow. Leeds have failed to do it, and that's tough on them. So
and you're going to have other teams that were kind of there and thereabouts next year. I think Coventry, for example, started slow. Obviously, had lost Gyökeres and Hamer, picked up really well, and then ran out of steam a little bit towards the end of the season. I think again they might be. They always operate well in transfer windows. If they can keep Wright and Sims up the top ends, they're probably going to be there or thereabouts again next season.
Absolutely. And I think another team, whilst they can't seem to quite crack it, but if they keep hold of Michael Carrick, I think Middlesbrough can't count them out yet either, because I do think that they've got a chance. They still find a way of bringing in some decent players. I think the Championship is going to be a great set. I think it's going to be a great league again next year.
We will try and wrap this up shortly. As we said, it's almost far too early. But one team I'm actually really interested to see how they do next season is Sheffield Wednesday, because Danny Rowe did an absolutely unbelievable job, and for some people he was manager of the season because he basically got a 36 game season and got 50 points which was pretty incredible if you'd have seen them play any of their first 10 games. So I think it's going to be really interesting. Now he's got a summer window to build a bit more of a squad. Obviously, we know their owner is a bit of a lunatic. So it'd be interesting to see how much of a squad he gets his own chance to build. But I'm really interested to see how they do next season.
Absolutely, because there was a lot of talk, wasn't there, that he was in high demand going other places, and you wouldn't have said that he probably would have been within his right to go and take another job somewhere else, given that he's maybe in the Premier League. But I certainly think they'll be a lot better than what they were this season. I think again it's just so hard to call. There's been no transfers either yet. There's always a team like Stoke. Stoke always have
a blinding transfer window, don't they? Every single year you go, they've signed Johansson already. That's for like £1 million, and you're like, it's a great signing straight away. And they'll probably still finish 14th next season. Hull could be another team though that you speak of, like the West Brom and Ipswich. Obviously, Hull threw an absolute bomb at it to go up this year, didn't they?
100%. And also, I think they've probably got one more go in them. I reckon, because the way that the 3-year cycle works with financial fair play, I reckon they've probably got one more shot at it. They've obviously got rid of Rossinia, so the ambition there is to find someone to get them in the top 6. But again, once you hit around July and the pre-season fixtures start coming in and players are signed and squads are starting to be assembled, you might get a little bit more of an inkling as to who's going to do well. But I honestly think, and obviously we are a Millwall-based podcast, so we're obviously going to be dominated by Millwall and signings and things. But I think the Championship overall is going to be an excellent league next year. I really do.
And I only got one of them right in the predictions I put out on the pod. So let's see if I can double that at least next year. That would be nice.
Before we do anything, I'm going to bring this is the last time I'm going to bring this up. It's the last time. Can we all spare a fault for Dan, who went on record, who said that Leicester are not that good and would finish 8th in the Championship? Ended up winning the league with 97 points.
Didn't quite get 100 though, like many were predicting.
Oh, so you were justified then. You were.
It's a fair argument. It's a fair argument.
But no, hopefully we have a better prediction. Next season.
Yeah, based on that and my one correct prediction, I'll get Mickey or Stephen, whoever puts this up, to leave a link to my betting Patreon in the description. If you all want to make some good money next season. And listen, we're going to come to an end now, but I just want to spare a thought here quickly for Simon as well. Here, Simon. Can we all just spare a thought for him quickly, please?
I've just bought a 75-inch TV to watch the Premier League next season and open the box, and there's no Leeds. Absolutely fantastic. Before we do go, guys, just a couple of other things. Obviously, we know that through the season we do Friday and Sunday. It's really, really difficult because we haven't got maybe necessarily all of the content to bring you that we usually would throughout the season. So we are aiming to make sure that we do one of these a week. Just any news that comes up. Obviously, we've got a couple of our pre-season or our season reviews and bits and pieces and things like that. We will be over the Euros doing sort of a That England podcast type feel to it. So England's first game's on a Sunday, which obviously might mean that we might not be able to do the live then, but we will be doing some shows and bits and pieces moving forwards. Please, if you can like and subscribe to the channel, it would be very, very much appreciated. This is sort of our housekeeping bit, if you will. We are on bunches. I know a few of you guys are in there already. That keep the chat going in there.
I'm not actually. I need to join that.
We'll get the link in the description.
Please do, for my sake. Actually, more than anything.
Don't tell Mickey that Dan's not in there. But yeah, again, guys, it's really difficult. I was talking about this the other day, that we enjoy doing this, but when there isn't an awful lot to talk about, it's really hard to there's no football. So thanks for spending your Sunday bank holiday evening with us. At the moment, I can see we've got 353 of you across all of the pages. So it's really, really appreciated. Keep an eye on everything. We will have I've just remembered, Dan, before I let you come in,
Go
we
on.
will have a prediction game coming next season, free to enter. There'll be prizes on offer, so predicting the championship scores. And I'm sure some of you eagle-eyed fantasy league players that the EFL have their own fantasy league coming, which we will heavily be doing something with for the next
set up a
season.
league. Yeah,
And
I was that was actually going to be my point. I was going to say I don't know whether it's been mentioned, but obviously the season is now finished. Congratulations to Jim Lucas, who won our FPL league. He won it by quite a landslide, actually. He had 2,577 points, and second place had 2,488 points. So nearly 100 points. And for those of you who don't play FPL, that's actually quite a lot. So congratulations to Jim there. The wooden spoon goes to Biggie. And I'm just looking down here, and to be honest, I can actually see right at the bottom, out of 88, in 82nd and 83rd is Stephen Jones and Omar Ranane.
yeah, I mean, I give up with it halfway through, but the EFL one, I've been waiting for a proper good EFL fantasy league.
I think
this
it's
is
going to
the
be
one.
good, isn't it? Yeah,
This is the one we want. This is the one we want to win. So, guys, keep your eyes peeled
we've all got
that.
to beat Jim Lucas, because I've just seen he did a Millwall community podcast, FPL League and Cup double. So we all need to teach him a thing or two next season.
Absolutely. But guys, thank you very much for spending your bank holiday Sunday evening with us. Hope you enjoy whatever it is you're doing tomorrow, whether you're working, whether you're off, if you're in a beer garden or whatever it is that you do. We will be back next weekend. We're not sure whether it'll be Friday or Sunday just yet, but we'll get something up as soon
Maybe we should do Sunday
possible.
so we can talk about how Jude Bellingham's like absolute ace of the Champions League and how he's going to bring it home in the summer. That seems like a plan.
Well, guys, you've heard it here first. Jude Bellingham's going to bring home the Euros, according to Dan, but he also said that Leicester were going to finish 8th, so we can't always trust everything that he says. That's been Dan that way. I'm Stephen. That's That Millwall podcast. Please like and subscribe. No, you just said we're going to win the Euros, mate.
Oh, yeah.
And just here we go. Daily Millwall. We'll leave it on this. Decent show. He's given us a 9 out of 10. You tell us, guys, in the comments what it takes for us to get you a 10, and we'll deliver that next time. Catch you on the next one.